You are seeing what may very well be the only Incendiary Shot build out there at the moment, and it's absolutely blasting through tier 15 maps and endgame. Just listen to this. I'm not kidding either, I can't find a single video, thread or comment talking about this skill in an actual build. And I'm guessing that's because on the surface it just sucks. But there are some really interesting interactions with it that I want to show you which work incredibly well. So, Incendiary Shot. Basically, it's a shotgun, it does fire damage, ignites, fires 10 fragments, and importantly, multiple fragments can combine when hitting the same target to combine their damage. The fork support will actually use this combined damage when forking to new targets, and each target hit by these clusters procs that shatter. This greatly improves its clear, which is nice and all, but the huge problem with this skill is the ammo and reloading. There is so much downtime that it's simply not practical. And that's where the really saucy interactions come into play. For our ascendancy, we choose the Titan. This gives us access to crushing impacts, which turns our hits into crushing blows. Normally, to heavy stun an enemy, you have to fill this bar right to the end. But with crushing impacts, you only need 40% for most enemies. Melee and physical damage build up 50% more stun, which is a lot, but we're using a ranged attack that does mostly fire damage. So stunning enemies normally isn't very realistic, but with this ascendancy node, it's really easy. This lets us use auto reload, which reloads our weapon whenever we heavy stun, which is all the time, so you can endlessly blast through packs without that downtime. It also means we can take overheating blow, which makes everything we shoot and stun have fire exposure for even more damage. We can also take perfect opportunity for more stun buildup, but importantly, it makes our damage lucky against heavy stunned targets. And we can anoint unleash fire for a huge 75% increased damage against heavy stun. This easy access to heavy stuns also means we can take the shattering blow node, which breaks armor on heavy stun. The wording can be a bit confusing, but this actually fully breaks armor on anything that isn't a boss. And of course, since we're fully breaking armor, we can take armor explosion, which also does fire damage for even more clear. Back in our ascendancy, we have surprising strength, which grants us 50% more damage against heavy stunned targets. And that's more damage, not just increased, so it's a huge multiplicative damage multiplier for the build. So where does that leave us? Everything we shoot gets stunned, reloads our weapon, fire exposes, fully breaks armor, explodes, and takes a massive amount of extra incoming damage. That's a lot of synergy, and it's exactly what is needed to transform a seemingly terrible skill into a powerhouse. The last two supports I've been using are Martial Tempo for more attack speed and Fire Infusion for more damage. These first three supports feel absolutely mandatory, and I've experimented with just about every other support for these final two slots, but nothing beats the raw output of attack speed and fire damage. For the other skills, I'm currently running Oil Grenade with Fiery Death for more AoE, and Maim for a huge slow. We don't actually need the fire exposure on this skill. I mainly use this for CC to slow down packs so I don't get swarmed, or to spread ignites across big fields if there's a million enemies. I'll often use this right before dodge rolling, as you can animation cancel it really quickly, so you can essentially throw this out for free whenever you need to dodge or gap close. I've also been experimenting with Flash Grenade here too, but haven't settled on it yet. Explosive grenades do ridiculous damage in this build. Remember, we're fire exposing, stacking fire damage, and have that 50% surprising strength damage multiplier. This is what we use to take down stronger rares, bosses, and to help handle things if you get swarmed. You can animation cancel these too with your roll. I'm currently running faster detonations, more projectiles, more damage and payload. If you're freshly at endgame and a bit squishy, you may want to skip payloads so you can use these more often to safely fight certain packs. Now we also have Shield Charge. This gives us mobility, but it also does a ridiculous amount of damage for very little investment. Plus it's melee and physical, so it builds up a lot of stun, which can be handy for resilient bosses and some rares. I'm running Bleed, Poison, and more damage. To scale it, you pretty much just need a high armor shield and plus melee on your weapon and maybe your gloves. I'll get to it very soon, but it also gets a huge amount from weapon set talents on the tree. So, with the addition of explosive grenades and shield charge, we have a strong answer for tough rares and bosses. In tier 15 maps, I've been killing the majority of bosses in the first heavy stun, with the exception being that giant skeleton worm and the huge golem guy who are extremely resilient to stuns. They're still fine, you just have to use more shield charges and grenades to take them down instead of one salvo. I do also have Plasma Blast slotted, but this is only used to start boss fights for an almost guaranteed shock, and with the Stormfire support, that shock doesn't end. For the rest, we have Scavenged Plating for more defense, Overwhelming Presence to make igniting and stunning easier, Herald of Ash for more clear, and Infernal Cry to improve shield charge. Alrighty, let's take a look at the talents. I'm level 89 at the moment and have been testing all sorts of nodes out, and I'm quite happy with this setup. Ultimately, I've found the damage of this build to be more than sufficient. Even when I freshly hit endgame, I had plenty of damage to handle tier 15 maps, but I was super squishy and would get stunned all the time, so that became the priority to fix. Let me first just say that if you plan on playing this build, I would approach this tree with some flexibility. Earlier on, I had all these chunky damage nodes because I needed to hit hard enough to stun, to generate auto reloads, and so on. With a better weapon and more levels, that stopped being necessary, and I could instead get rid of so many minus attack speed downsides and pick up extra attack speed. I'll cover the weapon sets after. Right now, let's look at the gold pathing. Here we take 80% increased armor from our body armor. I do actually have an amulet anointed for another 60% and have taken the stone skin ascendancy for 50% more, which is multiplicative armor on body armor. I think the damage of Unleash Fire is probably better overall, though I'm still testing them. Additionally, I've also chosen the 15% more life here. I know it may seem heretical not to take hulking form, and I have tried it, but I just seem to get more out of stacking armor and life at the moment. That may change when I have better gear though. This gives us a huge amount of stun threshold and basically covers that stat entirely. I do also have back in action for the 80% stun recovery if I do happen to get stunned. Before getting these two nodes, 90% of my deaths were dying in stuns, and now I don't even notice them. We have skill speed here, which feels great, beef for the big strength boost. This gives us elemental ailment threshold, which is great, and some more stun threshold, but that's not really the point. And finality provides an enormous damage boost against low life. Coupled with finishing blows, this number becomes quite ridiculous. This low life damage works really well with forking and the cone shatters of Incendiary Shot, so even the weaker hits can kill low life enemies. Now I can't afford one yet, but I imagine this will work very well with the Deepest Tower unique. Resolute technique is amazing. For one talent, we never have to worry about accuracy or evasion ever again, and we're not scaling with crits, so losing it doesn't really matter. Shattering Blow is what breaks their armor. Prism Guard and the surrounding nodes provides a much needed improvement to our resistances. Here we have some more attack speed, and this set provides a lot of ailment chance. Earlier on, I was leaning much heavier into Ignite, Bleed, and Poison, and had these nodes too. Now that I'm stronger, I'm not so sure how important this is. I still have it here for now, but those are potentially points that could be moved elsewhere. If I find that killing high-end bosses becomes difficult, I could lean back into ailments again. I actually really like this node now. I've removed it a few times and always regret it. After taking a big hit, getting topped back up as fast as possible is so helpful in avoiding unnecessary deaths. Okay, now for the weapon sets. For the crossbow, we have stun buildup, damage, chain, attack and move speed, fire damage, two-hand damage, the fire exposure, and some ignite related damage. For the shield, we have some bleed chance and magnitude. You can see I have 101% chance, so I'm always inflicting it. Melee damage, a lot of melee damage against heavy stun, gaining some physical damage as fire, a lot of melee damage against immobilized targets, which includes heavy stun, and some more melee damage at close range. Overall, I think this general pathing is quite sound, although you may want to chop and choose some nearby clusters depending on your needs at the time. And now for the gear. Right now, the majority of my gear is not great. My weapon and chest are decent, but everything could be improved significantly. Defensively, take max life, strength and armor wherever you can, and cap your resistances. I have 0 chaos resist, which is not intended, and it's a bit of a problem. Damage wise, we can aim for add fire damage to attacks and fire damage on our rings. Other damage sources aren't terrible either. Having a source of chill or shock is nice, but fire damage is the priority. The weapon has one very important requirement. It has to have loads and additional bolt as an implicit or a suffix. You must have at least 2 shots to reliably churn through your auto reloads. Your ideal crossbow will be the siege variant for an extra grenade. Your ideal stats are increased physical damage, adds physical damage, increased elemental damage with attacks, projectile skill levels, attack speed, and loads an additional bolt. A good crossbow like this will cost an absolute fortune, so adds fire damage can be a decent compromise. When it comes to leveling with this build, it doesn't really work until you have 3 support slots and tier 2 and tier 3 support gens. If it's your first character, don't torture yourself with Incendiary Shot before having these. Overall, this build has been super fun to play. I think it's a very rewarding playstyle, and it's just interesting to play ranged as a warrior and to make use of such a rarely used skill. I also think there's a lot of flexibility in how you could scale the damage with other elements, heralds, and even using other skills creatively with the Crushing Impact's ascendancy. In between theory crafting new builds, I've been building my own game Polyglock, which has a demo available now on Steam. So it would mean a lot to me if you could take a look and slap it on your wishlist. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this build in the comments below. Are there ways you can think of to improve it, leverage certain mechanics, or scale it in different ways? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.